Prince Harry has won his major legal battle with Mirror Group newspapers, a judge ruling that journalists hacked the prince's phone and has awarded him damages of close to $180,000.
Today's ruling is vindicating and affirming. I've been told that slaying dragons will get you burned, but in light of today's victory and the importance of doing what is needed for a free and honest press, it is a worthwhile price to pay.
Mr. Justice Fancourt agreed with Harry's argument that senior executives knew this was going on, saying directors turned a blind eye and positively concealed unlawful information gathering. The prince was suing the Mirror Group newspapers along with more than 100 other claimants, including the estate of the late George Michael.
Good day and welcome back to the Sussex Files, the channel that reads the court documents so you do not have to. And today's episode takes us somewhere genuinely fascinating, into the courtroom. Because for the past 6 years, while the rest of the Sussex saga has unfolded in Netflix studios and Oprah living rooms and Montecito mansions, there has been a parallel story playing out in the High Court of England and Wales that has received remarkably little proper analysis. A legal war, launched by Prince Harry personally, against the most powerful press institutions in Britain. A war that, depending on which day you look at it and which case you examine, has produced victories, defeats, embarrassments, and moments of genuine, documented vindication, often in the same week. So today we are going to do what no one else has properly done. We are going to lay out every single case, every result, every cost, every contradiction, and then we are going to ask the question that sits at the heart of all of it. After 6 years, tens of millions of pounds in legal fees, and more courtroom appearances than any senior royal in over a century. Is Harry actually winning this war? Or has the legal strategy, like so much else in the Sussex story, produced a reality that looks very different from the headlines? If you have not yet subscribed to the Sussex Files, do it right now and hit that notification bell. This episode is one you genuinely cannot afford to miss. Right, let us go to court.
We've got some breaking news from overseas now. Prince Harry has reached a last-minute deal with Rupert Murdoch's British newspaper group to settle his claims of unlawful information gathering. News Group newspapers offered Harry a full apology for hacking his cell phone for surveillance and misuse of private information. The publisher will also pay Harry an undisclosed amount of money. The settlement brings the case to an abrupt end, and it comes just days before the trial was set to begin.
We need to start with some context that most channels completely skip over, because without it, the legal story makes no sense. Harry has not launched one lawsuit. He has launched multiple, simultaneously, against multiple of Britain's most powerful media organizations. This is not a man who stumbled into litigation. This is a man who made legal warfare his primary strategy for rehabilitation and accountability. And to understand why, you need to understand what he believes the press did to him. And, more crucially, what the courts have now confirmed they actually did. The phone hacking scandal in British journalism is one of the most significant press corruption stories of the modern era. It began with the News of the World and eventually engulfed multiple tabloid groups, Mirror Group newspapers, News Group newspapers, and associated newspapers. Journalists and private investigators were found to have illegally intercepted voicemails, bribed police officers for information, and used a range of what courts have described as unlawful information gathering techniques to get stories. Hundreds of celebrities, politicians, and public figures had their private lives systematically invaded over a period stretching from the mid-1990s to the early 2010s. And one family, Harry has always argued, was targeted more comprehensively and more destructively than almost anyone else. His own. That is the backdrop. Now let us look at the scoreboard. Case 1. Mirror Group newspapers. Verdict: partial victory. This was the first of Harry's press cases to reach a full trial, and it made history the moment Harry walked into the witness box in June 2023. He became the first senior member of the British royal family to testify in court since the 19th century. Think about what that means. Not since the 1800s had a member of the royal family stood in a courtroom and given sworn evidence. Whatever you think of Harry, that took courage or audacity, depending on your perspective. The result in December 2023 was a partial victory. Justice Timothy Fancourt ruled that phone hacking had been widespread and habitual at Mirror Group in the 1990s and early 2000s, and that senior executives knew about it, and covered it up. Harry was awarded £140,600 in damages. But, and this is the detail that the Sussex fan base glosses over, the judge found that only 15 of the 33 articles Harry submitted were actually the product of phone hacking. His phone was hacked, to a modest extent. The judge also noted that Harry had a tendency to assume that everything published was the product of voicemail interception, which is a very polite judicial way of saying that some of Harry's claims were overstated. The partial nature of the victory matters because it sets the tone for what follows. Harry is not always wrong, but he is not always entirely right either. In February 2024, Mirror Group agreed to a final settlement of approximately £400,000, covering damages and legal costs. A win. Documented. Real. But a partial one. Case 2. News Group newspapers. Verdict. Settlement with historic apology. This is the big one. The Sun, Rupert Murdoch's flagship British newspaper. The paper that Harry has blamed, along with the News of the World, for decades of illegal intrusion into his private life and, most painfully, into the life of his mother, Diana. After years of resistance and legal battles, News Group newspapers settled in January 2025, paying damages and costs widely reported to exceed £10 million. The settlement included a full and unequivocal apology from News Group newspapers for serious intrusion into Harry's private life between 1996 and 2011, including unlawful activities by private investigators working for The Sun. They also apologized for intruding into the private life of Diana, Princess of Wales. That apology, from Rupert Murdoch's own organization, is, by any reasonable measure, one of the most significant moments in the entire Sussex story. It is documented vindication, real and formal and permanent. But here is what the headlines did not linger on long enough. Harry had been promising a full, open trial for years. He said repeatedly and publicly that he wanted his day in court. He wanted the witnesses cross-examined. He wanted the documents disclosed. He wanted the full, ugly truth on the public record. And then, on the eve of the trial, he settled. Legal expert Ursula Smart noted that Harry had seemed determined to have his day in court, but ended up backing away from an open trial after a 5-year legal battle. One legal commentator asked the question publicly. If the case was as strong as Harry's team claimed, why settle before the most important documents and witnesses could be tested in open court? The apology is real. The settlement is real. But the full public reckoning Harry had promised never came. Case 3. The Home Office security battle. Verdict. Total loss. This is the one that almost nobody covers properly, possibly because it is the most embarrassing. After leaving royal duties, Harry lost his automatic entitlement to state-funded police protection in the United Kingdom. He sued the Home Office to get it back. He lost. He sued again to be allowed to pay for police officers himself privately. He lost again. He appealed. He lost the appeal in May 2025. British taxpayers spent £656,000 fighting Harry's security cases, and the courts ordered Harry to pay 90% of the government's legal costs from the earlier phases. That means Harry not only failed to restore his security, he ended up paying most of the bill for the government's lawyers as well. This case cost him considerably more than it cost the Home Office. And the irony is devastating. A man who left the UK partly because he said he could not keep his family safe there, spent years and millions of pounds in legal fees trying to get back into the UK's security apparatus, and the court said no. 3 times. Case 4. The Daily Mail trial. Status. Live and unresolved. This is the one that is happening right now, in January 2026, as this episode goes to air. Harry is facing the Daily Mail publisher Associated Newspapers in a 9-week high court trial that his own father, King Charles, is reported to have privately called a suicide mission. Harry is in the witness box, giving emotional testimony, describing what he calls a lifetime of press intrusion. On day 3 of the trial, Harry described the proceedings as a horrible experience, and his voice cracked as he accused the press of making Meghan's life an absolute misery. And here is the critical context. Harry had already been ordered to pay nearly £50,000 in legal fees after losing a libel suit against the Daily Mail's publisher in a separate action. So he has already lost one battle against this specific opponent. The Daily Mail trial is his final and most expensive confrontation. If he wins, it is genuine, landmark vindication. If he loses, and the legal record on this specific opponent is not encouraging, the financial consequences and reputational impact could be significant. So who is winning? Let us be honest about the scorecard. Harry has won documented, real victories against Mirror Group and News Group. The phone hacking was real. The apologies are real. The damages are real. Nobody serious disputes that the British tabloid press behaved illegally and that Harry was a victim of that illegal behavior. On that specific point, the courts have spoken and the press was wrong. But the broader picture is more complicated. He lost the security battle, completely, inexpensively. He dropped one libel case against the Daily Mail after an unfavorable pre-trial ruling. He settled the Sun case before the full trial he had promised. And he is now fighting one final, enormous battle whose outcome nobody can predict against a publisher that has already beaten him once. Harry himself, speaking at an international privacy conference in Washington in April 2026, acknowledged something that deserves to be heard clearly. He said that challenging powerful institutions has yielded no personal gain and has come at a significant personal and reputational cost for himself, his wife, and their children. No personal gain. Those are his own words. Not his critics. His own. And that, perhaps, is the most honest summary of the legal war. Harry has achieved real accountability. He has forced apologies from institutions that deserve to give them. He has made history in courtrooms. And he has paid an enormous price. In money, in time, in stress, in the diplomatic damage done to his relationship with his family and his country, for every inch of that ground. Whether that price was worth it is a question only Harry can answer. But the idea that the legal strategy has been a straightforward triumph, that the war is being won cleanly and decisively, is not what the full scoreboard shows. That is episode 6 of the Sussex Files. This one matters, because unlike the gossip and the drama, the legal record is documented, permanent, and impossible to spin. If this episode gave you a clearer picture of what is actually happening in those courtrooms, please give it a like right now. Subscribe if you have not already and hit that notification bell, because episode 7 is coming. And in episode 7, we build the full brand Sussex scoreboard. We're going to put a number on exactly what Harry and Meghan were worth at the height of their power, what they are worth now, and who, between the palace and the Sussexes, is actually winning the long game. That episode is going to settle some arguments. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Sussex Files. I will see you in the next one.